Think the fax is dead? Wait until you can fax your whole body. You know, back in our self-reconfiguring modular robots episode, we talked about robots that can reshape and reform themselves so that they can do any particular task perfectly. Well, what if we take that same idea, but think small? I mean, really small. I'm talking about programmable matter, actual three-dimensional tactile material that can take on any predetermined shape and then change shapes on demand. Imagine that we have a programmable material workstation. That might include a little trough with some beige putty in it. And this putty looks totally normal until you send it some information, like a virtual model of a three-dimensional object. And then it springs into action, forming that object right in front of your eyes. Now, it sounds like it's the stuff of science fiction, and that crazy kind of technology has to be 100 years away, right? Maybe, but maybe not. One approach to programmable matter is claytronics, which is an idea that came out of Carnegie Mellon University and Intel. The base unit of claytronics is the cadom, the computerized atom. Now, these cadoms can work together to form three-dimensional objects on demand. And building that kind of machine is pretty tricky. They have to be able to receive energy. They have to be able to communicate with one another. And they have to be able to move around, preferably without having any moving parts of their own. So several years ago, Carnegie Mellon researchers built cadom cylindrical prototypes that were 44 millimeters in diameter. Now, these things were able to move around on a two-dimensional plane, pushing and pulling against each other using electromagnets. In the future, we want to see even smaller cadoms, maybe just a millimeter in size, or the size of a grain of sand, or maybe even smaller than that. Now, in a future where this is a reality, where we have programmable material, why should we be excited about it? Well, think about it. Email has pretty much rendered the fax obsolete. But what if you could fax three-dimensional objects? Let's say that I have a trough full of claytronic cadoms in front of me, and I take an object and dip it into that trough. The cadoms flow over it, creating a virtual model of the object I've put into it. And then I send that to you, and you have your own trough of claytronic cadoms that assemble themselves into that same three-dimensional object. Boom! I just sent you a copy of a real physical thing. Or in the far future, it could be part of telepresence. Forget phone calls, forget video calls. I would be able to create a full three-dimensional claytronic version of myself that could appear in front of you and give you a handshake or even a hug. The entertainment applications for this alone are astounding. Imagine playing a video game and the characters literally leap off the screen and become three-dimensional creatures in your home. And if this stuff becomes plentiful and cheap enough, we could have objects disassembling and reassembling themselves everywhere. Let's say I've got a bunch of friends coming over for dinner and I want to make sure I got enough seats for them. Well, I could use claytronics to build the furniture right then and there. Then, when my guests leave, I could have it disassemble back into those individual cadoms and go into a vat for storage. One thing we have to take into consideration is this amazing future may never appear during our lifetimes. But I'm still really excited by the prospect of people working on this technology. And we don't even know where it could go. I mean, when people first started making computers, they had no way of knowing that the future would turn out to be as amazing as our present is. That brings me to this week's question for you guys. If you had a big old vat of claytronic cadoms in front of you, what's the first thing you build with it? I want to know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like, subscribe to our channel, and then check out these other videos over here.